This is not the same Shmoo presentation that we anticipated. There will not be a Hookers for Hackers giveaway this time, so I'm sorry to disappoint you. We have some other, mostly nerdy crap to talk about, so maybe next year. So I don't exactly know why you're all here, but we're going to give you everything, and we'll figure it out as we go. I'm Pablos from the Shmoo Group. We do have some stickers. If you didn't get one, you're a lamer, right? and
go to those guys right there. Raise your hands, guys.
So
raise your hand.
What we'd like to do at DEF CON is just lambaste you with everything that we can think of that we've been working on, or at least the cool stuff, and it's ready. And so we have a panel of all different Shmoo guys. There are a whole bunch of others, but the ones that have stuff to show you today are here.
We're the troublemakers.
They're troublemakers, yeah. And but we have a couple things we want to talk about, and I guess first I'd like to know, did Mike Lynn make it here or not? Is Mike here?
Spot the mic.
So there's no Mike. Okay, well, I'm sure you all are aware of what's going on with Mike and in the recent fiasco, and he's not allowed to talk, but we wanted to say a couple things about what he's up to, which is important because everything that we do here at DEF CON and in security research has to do with reverse engineering and disclosure of vulnerabilities. And unfortunately, it's what we have to work with as far as making systems secure. We have to find the problems, we have to tell people about them, and we have to fix them. And that's a lot of what's going on. And it's really, really pivotal, I think as most of you guys know, to support that. So, reverse engineering and Mike Lynn. Oh, now I see why you're clapping. Clap for Mike. That's kind of a side project. Yeah, this is Mike. So as you know, Mike recently, in the last few days, managed to get sued and settle with Cisco. But the work that he's been doing goes on with other people, and it goes on, and what's important about it is that we can't let a culture of cover-ups for security issues develop. And if you look at the interests of vendors and the security research community, they're kind of opposed. But the important, I think, message from like what Mike's just been through is that vendors have an obligation to their customers, and it's really the customers that are being kept in the dark when the vendors aren't disclosing the vulnerabilities that have been around for a while, even once they've been fixed. So I think that an important thing to recognize is that all you guys are really important, right? The work that you're doing is really important. Some guys every year put their ass on the line, and some get picked up, and Mike's not the first, but he's the most recent. And so the important thing is keep up the good work. And this is
you guys rock.
This is from a project I worked on to secure cell phones to thighs, and I managed to patent the use of women's thighs, which I don't know if there's anyone that elite here, but if you are, let me know. So the other thing that I want to say before we move on is that don't get sidetracked by all the work that people are talking about as far as vulnerabilities. There's a lot more to security than finding vulnerabilities and exploits. There's a lot more to security than just patch management and IDS. There's a lot more to security than policy management. And what there is architecture. What we want to do is change the world so that 15 years from now, we aren't coming back to DEF CON and telling you about the latest exploit we found in firewalls or Wi-Fi or whatever. We need to find fundamental ways to change the computer systems that we use. We need to find ways to take the academic research that's been done and put it into practice. And this is unfortunately not something that the market has been really good at. And so I think it's up to you guys, since you're learning to think different, you're already on the fringe a little bit, and you've learned about how to break shit. You know how to break shit. You know how to build shit that can't be broken. And what we need to do is figure out how to do that and kind of move our entire industry forward. So and the world in general. So that's what I wanted to say. With that, I'm going to hand it over to Eric Johansson. And Eric is going to take on getting on with the exploits and shit.
Good afternoon, folks. How are you? You guys still alive? So, let's see. Back beginning of this year, I did some work related to international domain names. This work was apparently, I was not the first person to do this work, specifically related to international domain names and homograph attacks. I found some holes in, well, most of the browsers that are out there related to how they handle Unicode characters and domain names. And this attack has been talked about. There were papers published in 2000, vendors were notified, and no fixes were done. This seems like a problem. So, no? So, it was interesting when I gave this short presentation demoing this exploit at Shmoo-Con, because everyone went up in arms and said, you should have notified the vendors first. The vendors that I did notify several weeks in advance before Shmoo-Con told me that it was not a vulnerability. We will be making no fixes.
It's a feature.
It is a feature. A large hardware manufacturer.
These are not the exploits you are looking for.
Yeah. Okay, so an IDN exploit or a homograph attack, what it basically is, if you have, let's say, PayPal.com, and you have over here PayPal.com, only the first A in PayPal is actually a Russian A, which looks and smells and tastes identical to a Latin A, that is effectively a homograph attack because users cannot tell the difference. There is no difference on your browser, on most platforms, the difference between those two domain names. So, phishers would probably really like that, I suspect. So, you know, it was interesting, the vendor response I got. Basically, most vendors told me, this is not a bug. Go away. We don't want to hear from you. After it was released, suddenly I'm getting calls from legal departments. So clearly, vulnerability disclosure is something that we all face as security researchers because, just this week we have someone that's also going to be dealing with more issues related to how they disclose something. There's an RFC written out related to vulnerability disclosure. Everyone seems to be doing things in a slightly different way. But ultimately, what a lot of people seem to be forgetting is just because a vulnerability is found, doesn't mean that they're the first people to find it. I was not the first person to find the IDN homograph attack vulnerability. It still hadn't been fixed. The work that Mike has been doing, it is very likely that other people know about those attacks. It's very likely. And just because it hasn't been disclosed does not mean that it places all of our society at risk. So, in short, I think ultimately for consumers to be the best informed, they need to be aware of these vulnerabilities. And ultimately, vendors are out to make the most money. And I think that's in direct conflict with the internet and the routers of this world and the web browsers of this world. So, think really hard when you find that vulnerability about how you want to handle it. Don't be bought out. Don't let that happen. So.
Yeah! Fucking yeah! All right, so, yeah, I know, we're going to get up here and we're going to preach a little bit or whatever. We got cool shit, don't worry, okay? Everybody's like, hey man, what is it? So we're gonna get down and dirty. And this will fry your fucking brain, okay? If you're not familiar with what rainbow tables are, Dan will go into it a little bit. If you haven't been to the rainbowtables.shmoo.com
He's
website,
going to speak really quickly. There'll be a quiz when we're done.
But Dan's got something. Dan's got a new bag.
Anybody here know math?
All right. Hi, all. There's no slide for this, but since I'm up here and I have all of your attention, I saw Jennifer Granick just leave, but could everybody who's from the EFF who's here please stand up? We're talking about, hey guys. All right, I'm just going to do introductions quick as I see you. I used to work with these guys very briefly as a staff technologist, and now I'm elsewhere. But these guys, we had a party last night, you might have been to it. We're talking about vulnerability disclosure, full disclosure, legal ramifications. Jennifer Granick who is Mike's counsel, and the EFF. These are all the guys saving all of our asses every day.
Yeah.
So please give a round of applause for the EFF. Go to the dunk tank. I'm going to be there tomorrow. Dunk me.
Awesome.
All right, so rainbow tables. Everybody who's familiar with Rainbow Crack? Put your hand up. Word. All right. Rainbow Crack is an implementation of a technique made by a European researcher. And without getting into the heavy math of that, basically it's software. You can download it. Jennifer Granick, I see you walking back there. Jennifer, everybody give Jennifer a hand of applause.
Kiss her ass.
Thank you. So you download Rainbow Crack, and basically what it lets you do is consume all of her CPU time and generate, according to what it says, nearly every single possible landman hash. Everybody familiar with landman? Raise your hand. Word. Okay, great. So that's what it does, right? And we, like Beetle over there in the Bo Sox cap, had a good idea, and he said, hey, we got a bunch of people, and we have a bunch of machines, and we have too much free time, so let's just do this. Let's just generate every single landman hash that there is. So we started doing it. We just downloaded the code off the guy's website. We fired it up on about like 150 machines across different Shmoo, and we generated it. And our goal was to use it to generate, you can do different key spaces, like you want to do 5 characters, 6 characters, whatever. We wanted to do the configuration that had every single 7-character valid hash for landman. Every uppercase alphanumeric character, a certain set of symbols, and space. So we did it. And, landman, right? We put it up. The link is live, right? Rainbowtables.shmoo.com, 43 gigabytes over BitTorrent. Go download it now. If you have a laptop, saturate DEF CON's bandwidth.
We're going for the BitTorrent record here. World's largest torrent.
Can you man the slides for me?
Right there.
Right. So
yeah, the big thing was that we were told, and I'll cover the political part real quick. He'll cover the technical part. But the political part was, we got an email, and you'll see the email in just a second, that said, hey, I wrote Rainbow Crack, and I don't like you giving away the tables for free because, I charge for them.
And there's no license on the Rainbow Crack code at all, none. Either the code is free, you can download it, but there's no BSD, no GPL, whatever.
Meanwhile, there's other folks out there that are charging $700, $800 for like the landman symbol 32, plus space tables. $700, you can go get those tables because obviously it's a little difficult for everybody to get together and just kind of generate them.
Preach, brother.
And we said, fuck it. We'll just generate them and give them away for free. So there, a 43.9 gigabyte torrent. Join the torrent, bitches. Right there. That's an $800 torrent, I guess.
Yeah.
We're all about added value.
And Dan will go over the finer technical points of the email that we received.
All right.
There's the email that we got from the author of Rainbow Crack, and I would butcher his name, so I'm not going to mention it. But all right, you can read it. The text is sort of small, but you can see it. We bolded out the important points. For those guys selling the table without permission from me, they are not welcome. But you were worse. And then the second paragraph basically goes into why he generated it, why it's cool, yada, yada, yada. And then, obviously, the third paragraph, are you feeling cool because knowing all the passwords is cooler than trying to crack one? That's a line from our original website, rainbowtables.shmoo.com. All over the world, there will be a lot of guys can do what you do. They aren't. Do you know why? To show off proof neither your ability nor knowledge. We're just running your code, dude. We liked you. Why can't we all just get along?
We're not hippies.
And then, if possible, please keep honored, blah, blah, blah. Don't be crazy anymore. Well, look at us, honestly.
Don't we all look sane?
All right, so we basically said that we had a lot of reasons as we were doing the rainbow table generation to make it better. And initially, that was all we were going to do. We were like, there's some pieces of code here we could optimize. But then we had that email, and so that pissed us right off.
And the big key was that, once Dan started looking at it, he was like, fuck it. We can do something better.
So
we don't need your stinking code, Zoo. And Snacks, by the way, says fuck off.
Yeah. So we have an unnamed project. We don't have a name for it yet. You okay, man? Sorry. We're making people fall out of their chairs already. It's sweet.
Chair. Can we get a fresh chair over here, stage right?
All right, so we have an unnamed project. It's me, Dan Moniz, and Reverend Dr. Patrick Stack, who's not here. Some of you may know him as Optics. He's not a shmoo, but we're working together on this because we both love each other. So we wanted to improve on Rainbow Crack, and so we started out just trying to optimize Rainbow Crack. Leave the method the same, but just, make it better. But in the process of doing that, we found out it is to suck. So we changed our approach, and we made a new tool. It doesn't have a name yet. Problems with Rainbow Crack. Who here knows a little bit of math?
Hey,
all right.
Come on up.
Yeah. All right. So I'm going to blow through this. If you want to come to the nitty gritty, it's either going to be, and they're going to pimp this later, either at ShmooCon in January in DC in 2006.
Or Guantanamo, we're on the edge. But
Yeah. Or if we're really good at it, we'll get it done by TourCon, which you should also come to this September. A reduction function bias. There's a reduction function in Rainbow Crack, and it has this bias issue, meaning that it does something a little fucked up. If your key space is 6 valid inputs, and you have a 2 to the 4, which is 16, number of outputs, the reduction that Rainbow Crack does, slightly simplified, I'm ignoring one little thing that doesn't matter, is the total number of outputs modulo the total number of inputs, and that equals what we're calling a bias marker.
break it down.
So here's some modular arithmetic, real simple. 0 mod 6 equals 0, all the way through to 15 mod 6 equals 3. You can sort of see the columns. It's a lot of modular arithmetic, but one thing you'll notice is that there are 3 of every single value, i.e. the thing to the right of the equal sign. There's 3 of every of them except 4 and 5. We only have 2 of those in this 16 issue here. So say that Landman only had 6 possible inputs, and say that the algorithm, which in Landman is DES, had 2 to the 4 outputs, or 16. By taking an arbitrary random output from the algorithm, we can assume that the algorithm output is random, and modulo it by 6, there's a better chance of the input values being below that bias marker, that thing to the right of the equal sign. So values 0 to 3, because we have more of those, have a better chance of being picked at random due to this than the 4 to the 5 values. We only have 2 of those. See? Okay. I know I'm going quick. So the real bias problem here is, that's just a summation. That's for I equals 0 to I equals 7 of 69 to the I. So this Riemann sum is not an integral factor of 2 to the 64, just like 6 is not an integral factor of 16. This modular arithmetic has a bias. So if we bring this back to what Rainbow Crack actually does, instead of my bullshit example, you can assume that the output of DES is statistically random, or at least random enough that the bias would still be present. Why it matters. Okay, here's some math. I'm going to break it down. N equals the floored result of the total number of outputs over the total number of inputs. We're going to add 1 if N is below the bias marker, if it's one of those low values we have more of. And that 1 represents the extra chance. We have only 2, 4, and 5s. We have 3 of everything else. 1 plus N. So those are those more present values over the total number of outputs. Chance of hitting that key. N, the ones that we only have 2 of. Same thing. Values below that bias marker are unfairly weighted and are more likely to be inputs to the rainbow chain generation. What that basically means is he screws up the math. And he basically does modular arithmetic wrong so that he ends up generating impossible validly hashes. They can't work. So our generation technique, or how we get around this, we start generating at the last possible input that's valid for Landman, and we walk towards the first. As we generate, we use a bit mask, so we can determine if we have computed the key or not. We know if the bit mask works, that if it's there or if it's not. So we have 100%, mathematically provable 100% verified key space because everything is accounted for. At 1 bit per input, this method requires 768 gigabytes of disk space if we were going to do it on 1 machine. Our badass sorting foo. We separate out anything that has less than or equal to 6 characters. 7-character key space is one table, 5 to 6 character key space is another. We do this so that you can detect the length of the password really easily. Landman primer. Here's how Landman works, really quickly. Take 14 bytes of input, split it into 2 chunks, each one is 7 bytes. Hash them independently. So say I have a password of dog. Dog turns into dog with nulls at the end of it. And then we split it in 2, dog, and then some more nulls. You can detect that the first half is 7 characters or less of this particular password because the second half of the password is the null hash. It's the hash of the nulls, which is always going to be the same for any password 7 characters or less. Now with the password of spam dad rules,
Who's your spam daddy?
there was one guy in the audience who that was designed to be for.
Yeah.
That's my elite stego technique. All right, so same thing, more than 7 characters. So it goes to that, spam dad, and then rules, null, null, null. You know that this hash is 7 characters. That's actually more. That slide is wrong. This hash is actually more than 7 characters, 7 characters or more. Because the second half of the hash is not the null password hash. We get the rules in there. So this decreases the time spent looking through every hash that can't work. Rainbow Crack loses because Rainbow Crack just generates random hashes. He's just using your CPU time. He's just saying, well, I don't know, that might work. And that reduction function has that bias problem. So random hash, okay, fair enough. That's a pretty good approach. But plus this error equals lame. Bad plus suck equals lame zor. Now we get our crack on. RT crack, that's the tool that you use in Rainbow Crack to actually crack the passwords once you've made them all. It reads in as much of the hash table file that RTGen, which is the generator, generates using the read syscall. And then it walks linearly to check to see if the endpoints of the rainbow chain match. And this has O to the n complexity, big O notation, standard stuff. We store the start point and the endpoints in separate files on corresponding offsets. And then we take the page size on the x86 architecture, 4,096 bytes, divide it by the entry size, 8, plus 1 for the index, and that gives us 513. So every 513th entry, after we've sorted them all, we store it in a special index file. And at crack time, we mmap this endpoint index file and use divide and conquer, or Fibonacci find, to find out if the endpoint is in the index file. Or if it's not, to find out what offset the endpoint is referenced in the master index file. Now we get our search on. Thus, for each offset, we read a maximum of 1 page of memory off of disk, rather than reading the 12 gigabyte file you did. So 496 bytes maximum ever to read 512 possible hashes. And this is a Bayes tree that's been modified slightly. Patrick, who came up with this method, has a doctorate of divinity in searching and sorting from the Church of Donald Knuth.
Awesome.
Give it up for optics.
Optic. Anybody have any Advil?
He sent an email to Zhu trying to explain this to him, and Zhu's like, nah, man, I don't know that. So Rainbow Crack gets an L for lame. Disk I/O in Rainbow Crack costs as much CPU time as encryption, if not more. And so Rainbow Crack fails to account for this in the way he does his statistics about how long it's going to take you to make all the key space.
Don't be crazy anymore.
Say it more whiny.
Don't be crazy anymore.
So here's our secret sauce. Our code is implemented in C and assembly for the IA64 Itanium 2 and running on a classified number of processors in an undisclosed location. But we have to give shout out to SGI for helping us out with this. Any SGI people in the house? Nobody?
I don't think there's any left.
Okay. We also implemented the generator. We haven't done the cracker yet, but the generator's in VHDL to run as customized, specialized hardware on a Spartan 3 FPGA. Flip that up. There we go. Woo! The thing's generating landman hashes as we speak, basically.
Okay, I'm holding it up higher. Jeez.
And that's me. I'm done.
It has blinking lights and shit, and a Beetle.
Thank you.
FPGA.
Oh my God!
That's so fucking cool.
The brain's coming out of my ears. That's just hot, man. That's so hot.
Thanks.
All right, so I'm going to talk about a few wireless things here and there.
Wireless.
First of all, why oh why do we Wi-Fi? Who here has an open wireless network at home? Go ahead. You can admit it. My name's Beetle, and I have an open wireless network at home.
Good for plausible deniability.
You know, crap. My TiVo, it can't do WPA, and my PSP, it can't either. Does it really fucking matter? I mean, at the end of the day, does it matter if somebody's like reading my streams of like Girls Gone Wild? I mean, does it matter that somebody's like messing with my Wipeout Pure ad hoc session? I mean, do you really care? I mean, some of the technology, it really doesn't matter if it's like that secure, okay? It's dumb, all right? It's dumb, it's entertainment, blah, blah, blah. But when you start looking at different environments, where in the world should you be actually doing wireless? Coffee shops? All right. Airports? Maybe. Hospitals? Banks? Nuclear power plants? You know, this is interesting. I got this from Matt Fisher. He sent this to me. Scanned it in. He was like, man, check this out. They're doing wireless at some nuke plants. I'm like, okay, cool. He was like, no. Look a little closer. IP address, baby. Not only do they tell you that they're running Cisco hardware, they tell you what the internal address space is at Comanche Peak, Arizona, or Azima. It's great. Azima has installed monitoring devices on more than 50 pieces of critical equipment. Where did we go wrong? I mean, and where the hell are we going? I mean, it's a technology of convenience, right? But there's obviously this inconvenience of securing it. So we just put it out there. And then all these users, as far as they're concerned, they're left in the authentication cold. And then the standards, they're half-assed to begin with. And then how they're implemented, that's half-assed as well. And then, of course, everybody has this acronym knowledge. Everybody has a degree in acronyms now, and they use the acronyms to secure their networks. Right? I have an EAP-protected network, really.
Hallelujah.
I use a VPN to secure my wireless, really. How did you deploy that VPN? In what configuration is that VPN? Which EAP are you using? Choose a mobile network with care. Choose a mobile network at random. How the fuck does the user know? Really? How? Let's look at a rogue access point attack. Graphical. We've seen this. DEF CON 2 years ago. Unfortunately, the press just caught on this year. Wi-Fi card comes in, gets disassociated by an access point that's closer or stronger. SSID effectively becomes bad guy. And this before Windows XP Service Pack 2 would occur without the user's knowledge. Now with Service Pack 2, it tells you when the SSID changes. Rock on. So nobody can forge an SSID or duplicate an SSID or a MAC address or any of that. So rogue access point attacks. When you're choosing your Wi-Fi weapon, normal gear running at 14 dBm, Cisco gear running at 20 dBm, Cineo gear running at 23 dBm. Throw on a nice little directional antenna, you get 15 dBd and 38 dBd total. 6 watts versus 25 milliwatts. You will win every time. There's no way that somebody's going to actually get onto the other access point, the legitimate access point, they're mine. So we have things that you can display, such as Hotmail. That's not Hotmail. You have other things like PayPal. That's not PayPal. And at airports, that's pretty interesting. You're seeing this across the country. Joe's wireless hotspot. I don't know who they are. Done. Rogue access points are not going to go away. Users are going to be users, and they will fall victim to being drawn over to impersonating access points. If you didn't notice, phishing, identity theft, on the rise. Wireless hotspot usage, on the rise. Apparently, some people, like Gartner, feel that that's not a threat. It's overblown. Gartner can blow us. This is a problem. Pay attention. It gets worse. Rogue radius. So you secure your nice little network with EAP, and there's a nice little acronym bonanza with regards to EAP. Who says that rogue access points can't be used against wireless corporate networks that are using EAP? Plenty of ways to screw EAP up, and they allow for things such as EAP peaking. That's my new term for it. This is kind of how EAP works. You say, hey, I want to join the network. Access point replies back and says, hey, who the hell are you? You send your identity. Radius server validates that, gives you a dynamic key, allows you onto the network. There are variations of EAP, such as EAP TTLS. EAP TTLS, very similar. You have your 802.11 authentication and association, EAP protocol exchange, TTLS protocol exchange. A nice little secure tunnel is established. And through that secure tunnel, that's where you pass your credentials. And everything else happens like it's supposed to. What's the weakness here? If you have a previous EAP TTLS authentication established and a rogue access point with a Radius server comes in, and you are not doing remote certificate checking and or loose checking, disassociated, and of course what you do is associate, authenticate, set up EAP, TTLS, secure tunnel, and then you pass your credentials over the secure tunnel to the wrong person. So how do you actually implement this? EAP TTLS with PAP, which is a variation that you can probably Google for. Windows XP Service Pack 2 using EAP TTLS with PAP, probably using a Funk client. You have your rogue Radius server come in, rogue access point disassociates users, learns the username and password of every user that's on the access point at that time, disassociates them, copies the creds to the local EAP config, and then impersonates the victim. Google. You can find plenty of educational institutions that are using EAP TTLS with PAP. But there's a different vulnerability as well, because Microsoft provides something secure and protected EAP. And when it's used with client certificates, server certificates, rock on. But PKI is to suck. Nobody can get it right in the wired world. How in the world are we going to get PKI right in the wireless world? And so we provide the nice little option for people to use their username and password over a secure tunnel to associate to wireless networks. If you don't validate the server certificate and or you check all of the certificate stores in the normal store for Windows, you are victim to a PEEP attack. In this case, what you do is disassociate all the users, learn the domain and username immediately with your rogue access point and Radius server, disassociate them again, seed the local password file with a bogus password. Windows XP Service Pack 2 is kind enough to keep reassociating to you over and over and over. And as they do, they keep providing their username and password. It's only part of the password, so it's difficult for you to get it right until your dictionary stumbles upon their correct password, they authenticate successfully to you, and bang, you have their username and password. MS Chat v2 does not protect against this. Wireless weaponry for Windows. Rogue access point attacks, only in use by sophisticated hackers, right? Because it's so hard to set up an access point and give people the internet. Wireless access points, easy to set up. If you want to set it up on one Windows laptop, you can do it. Evil Twin access points for dummies. You can see it, airsnarf.shmoo.com, airsnarfforwin.html. But why should you run only one access point or one rogue access point when you can run 1, 2, 3? Rogue Squadron. Because it's so hard for people to run airsnarf, which is a shell script. Rogue access point set up for the masses. It's a modified WRT54G firmware based off of EWRT, adds a username and password. Capture and logging looks like this. It's the first firmware release from the Shmoo group. We had Shmoo hot interns working on this all night. There you go. It's basically using captive portal or NoCat. Allows you to set up a captive portal. People associate. And no matter what site that they go to, just as we've demonstrated before, you redirect them to the local captive portal, ask for their username and password. I'm not going to describe how easy it would be to modify this to display a T-Mobile graphic. Username and password entered. All you do is log into the box later on, SSH, dump your passwords. You're gone. airsnarf.shmoo.com/rogue_squadron is where you can get that. And here's Rodney. Thanks.
So I'm lazy. I don't actually usually try to break things. Well, I break things once in a while, but usually I just look at vendors' products because they're broken enough, so why don't you just have fun with them? So anyway, never let Beetle tie to your slides. Shooting your security wad, which was about broken products. Okay, so what am I ranting about? Have to keep up with the crowd here. So I've been doing product reviews. I do public ones. I do private ones. Take a box, set it up in a conference room, test it for a week. It goes off in the corner gibbering. Hopefully I get some money out of it. People put out really lame features. I'm going to, if I can get this thing with the fruit in the front to back up to this slide of Beetles. I'm going to steal one here. Come on, buttons. Back up here. So with this Microsoft Windows, they ship you a security product that says, do you want to validate the server certificate? They let you turn that off. This is in the standard shipping product. What were they thinking? I mean, it's crypto, right? I mean, you do it or don't. We yell at people. Do you want a button in your browser that says, oh, just turn off all the crypto? It doesn't really matter. They weren't thinking. Well, they were thinking about something like money, probably. But anyway, vendors do things like this. Microsoft's certainly not the only one. Anyway, we see some incredibly lame features that go by. I mean, people who build firewalls that you can get to by clear text HTTP because no bad guy would ever get on your management LAN. Just never happens. So what we think is something, I wrote this slide way before the teal camo shock troops with their boot knives came in and cut pages out of the presentations. There's a risk of Ford Pinto gas tank syndrome, which I call FPGS. This was something that happened a long, long time ago where some bean counter at Ford decided they could save a penny per car by changing the bolts in the gas tank, which gave them this really interesting characteristic that if you ran into the back of a Ford Pinto, the gas tank exploded. Most people involved were unhappy. And lawyers figured this out, and then eventually, the memos came out, and Ford got sued, and they don't do that anymore. Well, we hope they don't do that anymore. Of course, now we build plastic cars, so you just look at them and they fall apart. Anyway, so I ask these really hard questions of vendors, and the vendors get all freaked out when I ask them these things. Now, remember, I'm not a hacker. I just play one on the internet. I mean, I do my own stunts, but I'm just playing one on the internet here. I'm not really as scary as most of you guys are. Anyway, so, does your product produce an external log? Now, apparently this is hard. So think about it. So I have this IDS product. I power off the box, go do my bad things, power the box back on. It doesn't generate any messages when it gets powered back on. It just starts talking again. And so I would think that would be a simple message to generate. This is apparently hard. Do you have a security incident reporting mechanism? Yes, I wrote this slide a long time ago before some people did some things that made some people's incident response teams cause us to question them. Let's just say it that way. Some people don't even have things. I mean, there are many worse vendors out there than Cisco, Microsoft, that type of character. Do you store your key material securely? So after you've got this access point or radius or whatever box it is with wireless, if your private key's in the clear, so what was the point? If you don't keep the thing secure, I mean, there's a whole bunch of crypto. We've been doing this for 20 years. You should be able to figure this out. Do you have a management interface? Is it secure? Sitting on the phone with somebody doing a firewall audit, and I say, what do the firewall rules look like? And the CEO orders the IT geek to let me telnet into the box from the public internet. I'm like, I don't need to know what your firewall rules are anymore, dude. Telnet's not too common, but we still have SSH1, which is breakable. There's a lot of clear text HTTP. There were vendors at Black Hat. We're Studley. We have a booth at Black Hat. Let me show you our management interface, http://. So it's like, that's not secure. Building a steel door on a grass hut doesn't actually stop very many people. It only stops the people without the lighters, and half the hackers smoke, so get over it. All right. Security products should not make things worse. They should not increase the attack surface, to use somebody's buzzwords. People keep doing central servers, which is a nice single point of failure. And then they wonder why we attack the servers. I do these reviews where they go, 10,000 clients, or I'll have policy enforcement. And we have one box in the middle that we have old copies of SSH on and clear text access to and all these things. Gee, the hackers figure out it's a target. What a surprise. People should communicate securely among the components. Again, do product reviews, and people send all sorts of information back and forth in the clear. And that's if you don't fuzz it or replay attack it or things like that. And they run sloppy distros. Download Linux, put it on a box, paint the front of the box some sexy color because you hired the marketing department to make up a logo. You did all this 4 years ago before you got venture funding. So, this thing gets into the field, and suddenly I'm some sort of obnoxious rocket scientist because I noticed they're running Red Hat 5.2. And it's like, it's okay because it's a policy enforcement product from a big router vendor or a big whatever software vendor. So, sloppy distributions, we will notice. People do telnet to port 22 and read the banners. It's actually not that hard. Apparently the vendors don't think any of us know this. You need to promote this fact. Stupid vendor tricks, logging when they start up. There's all sorts of log analysis tools out there. That's really nice. Can we now have some logs to analyze, please? I do a scan on a box that does some sort of SSL web server balancing. Get no logs out. Go to the vendor and say, what's the knob I set to the position so I can see when the attacks happen? They go, oh, there's no logging. That's a feature. And I'm like, and how we're supposed to know there's a problem here anymore? People do self-signed certificates. I have a homework assignment for all of you. Somebody please take a copy of EtterCap, and when you grab the self-signed certificate out of the linksys box or one of various other things, please change the text and generate a new certificate so you look exactly like the vendor's cheesy self-signed certificate that they won't replace. And because man-in-the-middle attacks are quite possible, a self-signed certificate is only marginally better than no certificate at all, because anybody can make these things up. People don't put change control in. Everybody wants to have a GUI so they can be hot and bothered during the demo to make sure they can click on things and it's all multicolors and they're teal, blue, and cute and red and black and blinking and all these things, but you can't do change control. How about a little command prompt once in a while? Something like that? Incoherent documentation. I have a VPN box I have to manage for a very, very large customer with many dozens of Class B addresses. I printed out the manual. The manual's 1,078 pages long. I'm not sure anybody's ever read the whole manual. And then there's a user interface on top of that. I mean, has anybody actually figured out how Juniper zones work? There's a lot of these things that are very strange. It would be nice if the vendors followed the protocol specs once in a while. I do these voice over IP security classes, and I have a domain name, tissuesamplesfromthecraterwall.net. That's actually a valid domain name. Yes, I really own it. That character string is too long for most products because, they didn't read the protocol spec. And DNS has been around since what? Lincoln was president? Could we please follow the protocol specs, at least before you go cook up your own stupid proprietary protocol that's on top of it that's better because your EAT method's better than the standard EAT methods? Not that the standard ones are that good, but at least could we all use the same ones? We should all at least be in the same leaking rowboat. All right, things you should try. Now, this sounds really cheesy and stupid, but you can make money doing this. It's very odd. Run Nmap and Nessus. Half the time I run Nessus, some box in the network will go jump off in the corner and reset to factory defaults. Now, since we all know how to download these things and run them, and the bad guys too, and so do the children in high school or elementary school, or they're teaching in kindergarten now probably.
That's where I learned.
You learn in kindergarten, I'm sure. So, they should be able to survive little things like this. This apparently is news to a lot of the vendors. The vendors don't tend to go. There are vendors here at Black Hat. They tend to be doing things like hiding in very loud Hawaiian shirts, but they do walk around. They're the ones with the good haircuts. Anyway. Telnet to port 22 and read the banner. That's a really exotic way of doing a security analysis. Unfortunately, that gets me a lot of information. I write these product reviews, and I'm the token hacker, and it's all very scary. I telnet to port 22 and read the banner. It's really, really hard. And I do this over and over again in print, and the vendors who follow them don't actually figure it out still. It's like you'd think they would notice this stuff. Another one, try to look at doing crypto. Crypto apparently is hard. Thank God the hackers think it's hard because they don't steal the private keys as much as they could. Open SSL, turn on SSL2. Is there any redeeming social value in running SSL2 in anything on the public internet today? I don't think there is, but there's lots of products still supporting it. Go after the web interface. There's like 5 billion people left over from the .com boom who know how to write broken HTML, and about half of them are working for vendors building sophisticated web-based management interfaces. And they've got cross-site scripting and forms you can blow up and fields you can fill in 2,000 A's, and they jump into the corner in Site Vault and all these kinds of things. EtterTap, man in the middle of the boxes. if they don't secure the connections, you can man in the middle of the things. Go look for a random exploit. This is something they don't seem to think anybody would do. I'm testing a product and I'm reading, security focus, various random mailing lists, and an exploit will come out. I don't care if it's old or new. Go try it on the thing you're trying to use or trying to evaluate. Apparently, nobody expects you to actually keep up with the current news. You're supposed to buy a product, move into a cave, and run it there for the next 20 years. Everybody runs iOS 11.4, right? That's close to the current rev, definitely. So try the current stuff. The bad guys might try the current stuff. That's sort of why they're called 0 days, the ones that are even more current than the current ones that are known. You'd think you'd figured this out. Anyway, it's really easy to go after a lot of products. It's pretty stupid. It's embarrassingly stupid. And vendors just assume nobody would actually do this. There are no real I mean, there's nobody goes to death. There are not 500 people in a tent in a parking lot in Las Vegas right now talking about hacking. Doesn't happen. You just heard it on the internet. It's a bad rumor. It just really isn't happening. So I mean, everybody's really just sweetness and light and just leaves the networks all alone. And the bad guys, of course, are much more gentle than we are, right? We all know that. They're much more gentle than we are. Anyway. All right. How can you make things better? So, this is actually the stock slide. I decided to leave this one good. How can you make things better? Well, we're trying to be educated consumers here, so test things, try to actually do something and figure out and make it better. Try to report bugs. I mean, if the vendor is so much of a bimbo that they're going to yell at you for reporting them, that's their problem. You should still try to figure out how to report the bugs reasonably. If you can get one of these things to break, if you can find something breaking, give me a paper. I run the program committee for Shmoo-Con. Give me a paper. All of our papers starts today as of right now. And it's on the website, www.shmoocon.org. We'll have paper copies we'll put out there afterwards. But you find something you break. We wanted to break a track. You're going to give me the hook here?
Talking there.
No.
He's going to stand up here and harass me. Okay, I just got one more slide. You can take it.
It's okay, man.
Hey, yeah, definitely. Right, I'll get the hook later. You just wait. We'll have a... You're the time Nazi. Yeah, well, some of us had to be the time Nazi when you were standing up here, going through flashing things. Report flaws, document the risks. People say, I say, my God, you run HTTP on the management interface. And the Blender goes, nobody's ever said that to me. We think it's just fine. Everybody loves this. It's bullshit. Anyway, disrupt future purchases of insecure equipment. The only way they're going to understand is the money. If they ship lame shit, don't buy it. Make sure they lose sales. If it hits their pocketbook, they'll understand. And the other side of it is encourage future purposes of clueful stuff. If you find gear that's secure and works well, make sure it gets bought again. And make sure you show things are easy to break. People don't believe this stuff can happen. Nobody would crack DES. Nobody would build a rainbow table to crack Landman. Landman's perfect. Nobody would actually do any of these things. Nobody ever actually tries to break SSH1. It's just, there's all this mythology out there, but nobody actually tries to go after any of these things. So there's a lot of things you can do, and there's a lot of lame products out there, and it's low-hanging fruit, I know, but we should get rid of the low-hanging fruit. We should have to spend more time listening to them doing exotic tables than listening to me be a scary guy, because I can scout telnet to port 22. Here you go.
Man, I love listening to him rant. That's just ridiculous. Okay, before we get to Kick-Ass 0 Day, we built some gear last year. Actually, the year before that, we built some gear. We had the robot, we had 802.11 bounce, we had the sniper Yagi.
Box. Oh yeah.
Some of us had to move the sniper Yagi across interstate lines in a car, and I mean, I had to drive the speed limit to DEF CON, dude. It really sucked.
So, I told you we'd bring some gear. And we did. Cowboy, show them what you got. This is the 802.11 Bloodhound. This is a 9 dBi flat panel antenna back-ended by a 1-watt amp with a 0 to 100 dBi rotary select attenuator that allows you to direction find.
Next time you see her.
0 to 100. It goes to 11.
You mean it doesn't go to 11? That's messed up, man.
Right past to that.
For those of you that can't see it real close, we've got some actual close-up pictures. We made sure that we got these done once we got on site, so there's some of that doo-doo brow background. Well, we got a few things that are a little bit better than that. Yeah, it's battery-powered. She likes that.
Is the tattoo battery-powered?
Thank you to all our models.
Mike will tell you, don't touch the heat sink.
We don't pay any of our models like those NMRC guys.
Here she is. She's wearing one of the new Shmoo-Con 2006 shirts. Right on, baby.
And you can dunk her for the FF, too.
Great stuff. Yeah, the 802.11 Bloodhound for direction finding. Like I said, all of it back ends into an iPack, which you're running either familiar or Pocket PC on. Run your basic wireless discovery utility. But what you can do is long-range shots, and it's handheld. And you can go dual-handed. That's pretty cool, too. I mean, if you really want to just be Steven Seagal or some other, It's balanced. Check it out, baby. It sticks right there. I mean,
yeah, these guys play way too much with guns. They pick it up and they make sure there's got a balance to it.
So apparently, Mike was hanging out with one of these in the car turned on, and drove by a cop. So he got pulled over, right?
No, we didn't get pulled over. Actually, I was in the car with the cop.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. And the guy next to us.
this
honks his
voluntarily?
horn, and we rolled down our window, and he says, "Yeah, man, that thing's been setting off my radar detector for 2 miles." Apparently, he thought we were test driving the new radar gun.
Yeah, that's hot, and I really mean literally. It's hot. Like you don't want to touch certain parts of it. And when you aim it at people, I guess they get hot too. She's hot. I mean, all right. So I mean, if you want to check out some of the 802.11 Bloodhound later on, just meet up with Mike. He'll describe it in more detail. It's sexy stuff. I'm supposed to be participating in one of the war driving teams, and we were a little short on gear, so I decided to bring some, and there you go. Thanks a lot, Mike, for building that. Thank you. So I'm just gonna introduce Kaz. Kaz has a 0 day for Metasploit, Canvas, and Kismet.
Well, last year I came and wasn't really supposed to talk, and they convinced me to talk 5 minutes before we gave a presentation. I was the only person to release a 0 day last year in WPA, so I released a 0 day in WPA last year. So I decided to go ahead and release another 0 day. I've recently started a new industry. This is Pot Kettle Industries.
We're looking for the Gartner report.
I'm still looking for VC. If you're a VC, come talk to me afterwards. So what does Pot Kettle Industries do? We exploit the exploiters. One of the things that I'm really tired of doing is finding all these exploits that are published on Full Disclosure and Vulnev that are full of holes. Y'all talk about how everybody else's shit sucks, but your shit's worse. I don't know how many of you read the source code of shit that hits Full Disclosure. Almost all of it is vulnerable at some point in time. So, I decided to start writing exploits for the exploits. I haven't quite figured out how I'm going to profit, but it's in the business plan.
Steal all the underpants.
I'll let you go ahead and do that for me, Pablos. All right, so the first exploit that we released is in a multi-HTML. It was a remote exploit released by Banshee. Supposedly, Banshee is supposed to be here today. Are you here today? I have a sticker for you.
A sticker.
I released an exploit, and it got owned.
Right on.
I have asked for a CVE, and it has been granted. I have the first CVE for a vulnerability in an exploit. And I have an exploit available for that right here. So today, for the last couple of weeks, they've been asking me to look at Kismet to try and find some vulnerabilities so we can exploit other people during the DEF CON war driving contest this week. So, well,
That's top secret. Those people are listening.
okay,
Okay, we want you to return all the CDs. We're going to burn them and make new CDs.
Please go to the Shmoo page in your conference program and tear it out with a razor blade right now. Throw it away. Do us a favor.
thanks. So, among many of the other vulnerabilities that I found in Kismet, some of them Beetle's team is keeping private, and if you're running Kismet for the DEF CON war drive contest,
very, very worried.
you'll be owned, so don't. All right, so the easiest way to evade Kismet, like I said, I really believe in full disclosure and all that wonderful stuff and responsible disclosure, and I'm sorry, I've been told I'm supposed to hold still. All right, I believe in responsible disclosure except for people that are trying to own other people. Well, if you want to protect your network and somebody's attacking you and trying to find your network with Kismet, the easiest thing for you to do is to evade Kismet detection. What you're seeing on the screen right now is a scanf from the Kismet client. This is what it does to read the packets that are coming from the Kismet server. I don't know how many of you can read C, but if you note in there, the first thing it's scanning is an integer, and then it looks for a string that's enumerated. It has the hex of 01, then the SSID, and then the hex of 01, and then continues on as the scanf string. If you add hex of 01 to your SSID, guess what? Anytime Kismet sends your SSID across the network, it's not going to be seen. So if you want to keep your network protected from anybody using Kismet, make your SSID Shmoo with a hex of 01 at the end of it. anybody using Kismet's not going to be able to see your access points now.
Awesome.
That's 0 day number 1. There are some buffer overflows in Kismet. The guy who wrote it was supposed to come to DEF CON. He announced about 2 weeks ago that he's not coming. He's fixed 2 of the vulnerabilities that are in Kismet in the last 2 weeks. There's 3 more that are remotely exploitable. Don't be using Kismet over the next week. You will be owned.
When was the last time you heard you should download the latest rev of the software?
Download the latest patches for your exploits, kids.
Patch management is not just for users anymore.
How do I go back?
Arrow keys.
I don't.
Shift, tab, control, alt, delete.
Have you used a computer?
Whatever. We don't need those thinking slides.
If it's not written in Perl, I don't know how to use it.
Put the girls back on.
All right, so there's the Kismet evasion. All right, so I have a really simple exploit for Metasploit and Canvas using H.D. Moore's exploitation technique. About 2.5 years ago, he released he announced an advisory that he was able to exploit various different companies by sending stuff into their Apache web server logs. And the Apache the admins of those web servers were using things like tail-f in a vulnerable xterm to launch commands using xterm control characters. Well, what his advisory said about 2 years ago was anybody writing any applications that take user input needs to filter out the user input. Well, guess what? Canvas and Metasploit take input. The way Metasploit works is all of their exploits if you do a check instead of an exploit, they will do a banner grab and then do a lame regular expression on the banner and then print what the banner was so you can validate it yourself. So all you have to do is match their lame regular expression and then print some control characters like H.D. Moore provided in his vulnerability. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to wget a shell script and then I'm going to run it. And now I've owned anybody that uses Metasploit. Every single exploit that Canvas ships with does print if you run it in the command line mode. Every single exploit that comes with Metasploit prints some piece of data from the user or from the server that you're trying to exploit without filtering it. If you're running xterm that comes with Debian and you're running Metasploit or Canvas from it in the command line mode, guess what? You're ownable.
Owner awesome.
So using H.D. Moore's exploits against himself. So there's 2 more 0 day.
I think you might be at your limit.
Hey, we're not starting anything, okay? I mean, we're just making a point, and the general point is, look.
Set an example.
Yeah, seriously, the stuff that you're throwing out there, it's great if it busts stuff open, right? But at the same time, watch your back, because other people are going to be looking at your code as you throw it out there for other people to use. Speaking of code and application security and that sort of thing. Ranting. I'd like to introduce Bruce Potter, founder of the Shmoo Group.
I'm a little nervous to hit the next button because they've been slinging slides all day and I haven't been around. And I'm not sure if they've been screwing with me yet or not, so I guess I'm about to figure out. Okay, good. Woo! I can drop it for you. No, are there pictures of me on there? That's all I want to know.
Did we upload those yet?
Yeah, so for the record, Nomad's got like the most powerful lens on a camera known to mankind. I'm sitting up there on stage, and he comes up and shows me a picture like up my shorts that he took from like sitting out there in the audience. So,
Pwned.
Yeah, my crotch was owned, okay? Only in Vegas.
You might want to see someone about that.
Yeah. Nomad was up my pants. So, Bluetooth security, look, we talked about a lot of stuff today. We've been all over the damn road. And what we're trying to do is raise awareness. I mean, there's no threat here, right? Like, you couldn't possibly try to, like, the press is sitting up here busily scribbling away, and they're trying to figure out, is there anything in common with all these talks, or are they just all a bunch of crazies? all we're really trying to do is raise awareness. One thing we really don't have anything new on this year, but I want to talk about is Bluetooth security. Shit's gotten worse, guys. Like, it hasn't gotten better. There's more Bluetooth radios out than there ever have been. It's not dying, all right, regardless of whatever the hell the press and Gartner and people think. 2 million radios every week are integrated into devices. And I tell you, people are doing nasty shit with Bluetooth right now. Last year we tracked people for fun at Black Hat. That was just kind of the thing. And then Trifinet.org, Bluver, man, that's an awesome tool. What's the phone it runs on? 6260 or something. Buy some of those, man. Like, buy them in bulk. Anything that's got Symbian, you can run Bluver on. You can make the phones, vulnerable phones. You can make them dial. You can, grab down address books, things of that nature. The phones, a lot of the new phones are patched, but this is just an example, guys. My car has Bluetooth in it. One day I'll be driving down the road and some hacker will shut my car off, or he'll sequentially deploy all my airbags and do some kind of techno thing. And that day can't be far off. So, and once they put the Bluetooth dart in my butt, I think my life will be over. So, I never should have touched that microphone. All right, so anyway, that's that. Parent attacks, there was a paper that came out on parent attacks. The Bluver actually, we have nothing to do with Trifinet.org. I'm just pimping these guys because they have a great tool. But there's a paper on some parent attacks that came out recently, basically discussing how to force phones to forget their pairing and then repair with them and intercept the pairing process and then basically brute force guess the key. Everyone's always been able to brute force guess the key in the pairing process. Like, the standards bodies admitted this when the protocol was developed. This is not new. When you pair a Bluetooth phone, go lock yourself in a Faraday cage if you're really paranoid, woo, and pair, and that way no one can intercept it. But the neat new trick is that you can trick a phone into thinking, oh, I've lost my pairing with my earbud or whatever, I should repair. And so I like to liken this to a rogue access point attack where you've got a rogue device pretending to be another one in your network. It just happens to be your little Bluetooth PicoNet. If you're at DEF CON and you're talking on your Bluetooth earbud and your phone suddenly says, what I really want to do is...
Danger, Will Robinson.
Yeah, danger. If it says, what I really want to do right now is repair the earbud because I've forgotten the pairing, no. Put the phone away, stop talking to your girlfriend or your Vegas hookup, and just go drink. Because someone's screwing with you, and they're going to try to break into your phone. So, and wow, I'm not even sure where the 802.11 seems to...
If that happens on your wired earbud, just go home.
Yeah, yeah, it's the voices in your head at that point. So, defending wireless networks, this should say defending 802.11 networks because, 802.11 does not equal wireless and vice versa. We talked a lot about the offense. The slide is actually taken directly from our Black Hat talk that Beetle and I gave, so it doesn't make any sense in its current context. We had done something a few years ago called Hotspot DK. It was a hotspot defense kit in a response to a problem where there's a lot of money being spent to protect enterprise wireless networks in the enterprise. Like, hey, let's buy wireless intrusion detection systems. We'll put sensors up everywhere, and we'll put things in our NOC, and we'll be secure. Well, hallelujah, brother. Your infrastructure will be secure. Your clients are still out there in the window. Your EVP or your NOC guy or whoever that's got a laptop leaves your enterprise and goes to Starbucks. Your wireless IDS is not at Starbucks when AirSnarf is beating the shit out of it. All right? We need to pay more attention to wireless client security. So a year and a half ago, literally the day that DEF CON Federal started, we were scheduled to speak on day 2. We sat... What? Black Hat. What the hell did I say? DEF
CON Federal 2006. Be there.
Yeah. It will be in the Las Vegas County Jail.
Or Guantanamo.
Or Guantanamo if we're lucky. Jeez, go Gitmo.
Party with Mike.
So, what the hell was my train of thought? Oh, we wrote this tool.
You have one?
Yeah, not really. We wrote this tool literally in the day before our talk at Black Hat when we were drinking and talking to friends. It wasn't rocket science to write a little tool that protected wireless clients. Nothing out there at the time existed like it. We released it under BSD license and said, take it, integrate it into your own products. We don't give a shit. Just fix the problem, secure the clients.
Now you can buy it.
Yeah, now you can buy from other people, and it's taken a year and a half to get there. There's really still no huge amounts of support in the operating systems and the drivers and whatever to try to protect the clients while they're on the road, and really that's a massive problem. So things are not much better. I'm skipping ahead in my slides. We're working on Hotspot DKV2. It turns out that my third major was computer science. The first two were like biology and physics. They didn't work out too well either.
Marketing, economics.
Yeah, I went through a lot of
home ec.
majors. Yeah, well, I almost got into a fist fight with one of my professors, and then I watched him like dent my car on purpose. And I realized at that point, but computer science is probably not the way I was going to graduate college. And I can't code for shit. So I've been trying to write Hotspot DK version 2 for the last couple weeks, and it's been a qualified disaster. And the guy who I normally rely on is actually moving to Alaska right now. This is not like a line. So I don't have code to release. But ultimately, what we're trying to do is build an environmental monitor, okay? I like to liken this to going to downtown Baltimore. How many people, first of all, live near Baltimore? Yeah, okay, we all work for the government. How many people have been to Baltimore? All right. When you go about a block or two outside of downtown, it gets really scary really quick. That town is, it's not so pretty. If I'm in downtown Baltimore and I hear gunshots and then I check my body and I'm not hit, it doesn't make me any less nervous. I don't think to myself, oh, thank God, they missed me. Let's go get a coffee, dear. So this is the same kind of thing. We're trying to build an environmental monitor that look for nasty things happening in the air that might not be happening directly to us. Think of it as wireless IDS for your mobile device, right? This is really kind of a decent idea, I think. There was actually a question posed yesterday to me, why don't you use Snort Wireless? Well, we kind of want to do it lightweight. We want to try something new, so we're slinging our own code to give this a shot. If people are interested in helping out, please contact me. I'd be more than happy to, have you write the code because I'm really shitty at it. Question, okay, fire. No, the question is, if you help out, do you have to drive around Baltimore? No, I'll do that for you. Yeah.
He knows how
Wait
to
a
drive.
second, Bruce. Didn't you say that IDSs sucked?
I think that's what I heard.
So, there we go. Where the hell did this come from? Oh, Jesus.
Way to avoid the question.
I'm trying to get to a geometry here. What?
We only have one certified open office operator.
How do I go backwards? Oh, the back arrow. Hey, is that my slide?
You wouldn't learn that in computer science.
Oh, I did that.
Yeah, you did.
I forgot my slides. All right, so this is Hotspot DK. So to get to the question Eric asked, this microphone and I are going to have a carnal knowledge here shortly. So as security professionals, I'll get there. All right? Thank you, brother. Hallelujah. We haven't learned a lot. And people have called me kind of a killjoy the last couple of days because every time I've been on stage, I've been pointing at the audience and being like, it's all your fault.
We've learned the same things over and over, which is kind of learning a lot.
Yeah, you get to learn the same thing and fill up the queue. So here's the deal. We get paid to know security stuffs, right? You know, and ultimately, we should have a better knowledge of our environment and our equipment, as Rodney talked about, you know, understanding what the vendor gear we're putting in, understand the applications running in our environments, that kind of thing. Ultimately, users are the ones kind of affected by IDSs. Like, is a transaction I just committed with a Bank of America legitimate, or have I been owned? You know, is my credit card down? You know, Bank of America can find out. It'll take you, 6 months to discover it. But it would be nice if you found out in real time. It would be nice if the people in the NOC just got little pop-up windows that were binary ones and zeros. Secure, not secure. What's the state of the network? Bing, 0. Secure. What's the state of the network? Bing, 0. Insecure. What? Then you know you're owned.
You just cast that in stone.
Cast that, yes. Everything's secure. What we really need to be focusing on as an industry is a better understanding of the tools and our own enterprises and looking at the integrity of things. It's not good enough just to say, are there traces of an attack, but has an attack been successful? You know, that's the real rub. There's a lot of people focusing on forensics and looking at the kind of after-the-fact type of stuff. But we need to have a deeper understanding of what's going on in our environment. Brian Watring, who's a Shmoo who couldn't be here today, has been working for years on a tool called Osiris. You can go to hostintegritymonitoring.com and take a look at it. And it's basically, think of it as tripwire on steroids. It's examining configurations and checksums and all kinds of things about the Pablos, go.
It's free. Just get it.
It's free. It's get it. And he actually just has a book that was published about how to do host integrity monitoring. And what's unfortunate is that there's not a lot of other tools out there that deal with that kind of thing, and I think we need to focus on that. I made a triangle. What?
You made a triangle in college?
Yeah, I made a triangle in college. It was glorious. This is my PowerPoint food. Beetle has arrows going back and forth and worms and all kinds of shit, and I have a triangle.
And they're both built
Bring
like
on
bandits.
the triangle.
What do you want from me, buddy?
Tell me
Better
about
slides.
wireless IDS.
Wireless IDS?
Yes.
Why wireless IDS?
Because you said they were good.
They are. Wireless IDS in the client, I think, is a reasonable thing. That gets back to this kind of thing. Good.
Don't you mean host IDS on wireless clients?
It's okay, Matt. It's almost over.
Apparently, we need a keyboard.
Do we have any more
IDS.
shit we can show instead?
Yeah. All right. I'll
Clearly
make
your
this short
IT
and sweet.
security needs includes a different user interface.
Okay, so
Go play with this in the parking lot.
Yeah, go play with that. I'll just stick it down my pants with a 1-watt amp. Vegas was hot.
We get pictures before and after.
So anyway, here, sure. Look, you can see it backwards over there. IDS and the normal user get along fine because that's who really needs to consume the information. What we really care about is how bad is shit, right? You know, users need to make rash tactical reactions. We need, in the operations world, need to make strategic reactions like, oh God, we got broken into. Let's respond, incident response, and things of that nature. Does that get down your path? All right, thank you. Further, I think you need, when you think about security in the data center. Sorry about the rant, and if you were at Black Hat, I really apologize. But you really need to think about things in a structured fashion. And it turns out we need to spend as much time thinking about patch management and configuration management as we do firewalls and software security and IDS.
Where do we buy the honeypot hats?
The honeypot hats? I'll make you one of the soaking wet towel and some electronic devices later. Dead man walking. Anyway, I don't really want to get into this triangle because it'll be controversial and more than I really want to do. And Beetle standing behind me, threatening to beat the shit on me. So,
we're armed.
as a moment, I'm just going to do that to piss him off.
That was awesome, dude.
Awesome, whatever.
So,
Is Mike Lynn in the house? Mike?
Is he?
Did he make
Here,
it?
man.
Motherfucker. I told him to come.
oh man. Yeah, so Michael was at Shmoo-Con. If you missed his talk on signal intelligence and how to capture really interesting things that are in the air all day long and how to decode them because people are using leak crypto like ASCII.
ASCII.
You missed a really cool talk at Shmoo-Con. And it was a lot of fun. Who here was at Shmoo-Con earlier this year?
Awesome.
Right on, man. Thanks. That's cool.
Thank you.
So Shmoo-Con 2006, January 13th through 15th, Washington, D.C. again. Pre-registration is live now. If you missed out on Shmoo-Con last year, it's sold out. Like, we didn't have...
He is the ticket Nazi. When we sell out, we sell out. You
yeah,
have to
we
buy
were
it
done,
on
man.
eBay
We didn't
for
have any
$500.
space. We had no more chairs. I mean, we would have been like, people standing in the back or something. Okay. So, yeah, you can go to shmoocon.org. What we really like about Shmoo-Con, and particularly in how we can kind of get it out there for people to see. We threw a lot of ads together last year for people, their entertainment, and we're interested in soliciting those again from people. So if you have like an advertisement for Shmoo-Con that you'd like to get onto the web, we'd like to get it onto the web for you. And so just build it, make it. We'll compare it with all the other ads that we receive. The best ad that we get, we're going to pay for that dude, wherever you are, to fly to Shmoo-Con,
Bonus
stay at
points
Shmoo-Con,
if your ad is a
hang out at
mashup of
Shmoo-Con.
satisfaction video.
Yeah, man. I don't know.
Please do not hire an artist from Singapore or somewhere.
Yeah. No sweatshops, all right? Here's an example ad, just so that, like, if you want some mind view. See if this will actually play, hopefully. That's pretty hot. Right on. So we're really interested in more people, submitting. Rodney's got the CFP, so the CFP's out, and we're handing it out. So I mean, if you want to see what we're interested in, what we'd like you to present on, we had 3 tracks last year: build it, break it, and bop it. So we were interested in people like building things, and as Pablo said at DEF CON last year, build cool shit.
And the other thing, if you have an idea for a talk and you haven't done a talk before, you're not sure how you go about doing that, talk to us anyway. We're trying to encourage new people, new blood to show up. And we got all sorts of folks, people PhDs, people do professors give courses, all sorts of people do presentations. We can help you out with that kind of stuff. So if you have a good idea, talk to us. It doesn't matter if you've given a presentation for it. Go right ahead. Please, we encourage it.
It's important to mention that when we're at Shmoo-Con, we don't talk at Shmoo-Con. We usually, we might give a few rants here and there and some informative things, but those are sidebar things. We actually provide a venue for everybody else to talk. We come here and we just kind of throw a bunch of stuff together and we try and jazz people up and get people excited about doing these kind of things. So we're interested in providing a venue for you to give presentations. So submit what you want and we'll make it happen. So that's it for us. Does anybody have any questions?
Please ask questions. Priest is walking up.
All right, thanks a lot, guys. We really appreciate it. Have a good day. Have a good DEF CON.